Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to China, the Agentic Commerce Podcast. I'm Rachit Magan, and today we're talking about something every Indian knows: moong dal. We've eaten it mostly as dal, sometimes as khichdi when we're sick, and also as chakna sometimes when we're out with friends. But my guest today looked at moong and saw something very different: a modern protein brand. Shilpa Rathi is the founder of It's Moong, India's moong bean protein brand, and also the founder of I Am Love. Her journey goes from jewelry to skincare, from acne to gut health, and now building a whole brand around a humble Indian ingredient. Shilpa, a very warm welcome to Chinet.
Hi. Thank you. Thank you, Rachit.
So, Shilpa, if you could introduce yourself, what were you doing before Moong, before the brand, before the product?
Okay, so I've tried my hand at entrepreneurship for good 8-9 years now. Like you mentioned, I first started off with high street fashion jewelry. It was a side hustle while I was doing a full-time job. And then post COVID, I got into nutraceuticals, the skin and everything that was required for, from within of the body. It was in that journey that I discovered Moo, during my research. And I
Right.
realized that the story of Moo was something that was more fascinating to talk about and what all could be made out of that ingredient. And I completely changed the direction of my business idea and my business journey from anything in skincare to gut health that was happening earlier to now completely working on Moong, which is it's definitely a part to do with gut health because it's Moong is one of the easiest bean or pulses to digest. It has not
Right.
only been proven in Ayurveda, but it's been proven scientifically as well. So that's how I realized that, that was the future. Protein was already taking up, and gut health and fiber was going to be the next thing. And I didn't want to wait for the next thing. I thought while I'm developing my protein journey, Moong was giving me a benefit in both fiber and protein. So gut health was obviously, a byproduct of fiber. And so that's how I got into Moong, and yeah, so it's actually been a very interesting and and a very fulfilling journey for me as per se because we've really done like some developments that seemed very impractical from when I mean you have no idea how we had approached a certain product probably early Jan this year to now how we've actually made the product happen with a complete different outlook and with me actually getting into R&D as well. So I predominantly am a marketing person, but I think when you're passionate about something, it's and you go to the like proper in depth, it doesn't only keep you restricted to a certain category or a certain department of the business. It gets you everywhere, and
Right.
yeah, that's how. So we've developed a lot of products. We've actually applied for patents as well in a couple of
Wow.
developments that we've done. And we are hoping to get those, at least, we know that we'll get through getting the patent pending stage will happen soon. And hoping that we get it in a year or two, whatever time it takes in India to get it. And simultaneously, we'll work for an international patent as well.
Lovely, lovely. That's amazing. Congratulations, and I really hope that you get that patent very soon. But when you entered, right, like protein, as you said, like protein was a growing market. Also, it's become a very crowded market now, right? Like there are so many protein from from influencers to celebrities, everyone's doing protein now.
Yeah.
So how like did you not feel a little overwhelmed that okay, this market might be very hard to crack?
Okay, so our first product that we launched was the It's Moong Bean Protein. And
Right.
I was actually doing just one product for good 10 months. So I launched the brand last year, right, in around April. And for good 10 months, I was stuck on that because I actually didn't know what next. And I knew very clearly that, protein is getting a very protein powder market is getting very saturated.
Right.
And brands just have a very obvious next step after you launch a powder is either you get into bars, right? I mean, that's what every big brand has done. They've either launched with bars and gotten into protein powder or launched with protein powder and gotten into bars. And I realized that if I follow the same path, I'm not really going to be adding anything to the industry or to myself. So till I wasn't sure of what I wanted to launch, I didn't actually launch anything, even like a soft launch or try. And we kept working with the ingredients. So I did a very conscious effort of not following the protein industry, but rather than focusing on the ingredient. So, which is why the next product that we developed a couple of months back was a roll moon flakes, where
Right.
the concept was not to just get into the protein powder journey, but just to how to naturally the food that we are already consuming, how to make them protein rich. So again, in that also we have brands which tell you add this one sachet into your food and that will make, your curry protein rich, but
Right.
that's also in the end that you're adding isolated protein in some form. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to automatically just, I wanted to probably develop something that is naturally high in protein and, you don't have to have any kind of solvent that's required for the extraction of the protein.
Hmm.
So that's when we launched the roll move flakes. We obviously worked over the texture to make sure that it mimics oats. Actually, the concept was actually to replace oats with it because oats are just
Right.
high in carbs, which is the concept of why we have oats, right? For a morning energy to good, like a quick making thing and gives you good energy. At the same time,
Right.
obviously gives you soluble fiber at the same time. So I thought, this was a better alternative because it gave you soluble and insoluble fiber. It gave you high protein and a lot of other things that was missing in oats. It's lesser in fats, it's lesser carbs as well. And we realized that it was very good as a replacement for Indian grains as well. For example, you can make poha out of it, taste exactly like
Right.
poha, but just makes your bowl 15 grams of protein compared to 2-3 grams what you get from a regular rice poha. So actually, it's been, I did launch it and thankfully, and product did very well. It picked up consumers. I didn't have to educate people over the benefits of
Hmm.
Moong, right? It's just something that's right there in front of you, but you
Of
never
course.
looked at it before.
Right. Indian consumers, of course, they know they're familiar with Moong.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously Indians are familiar with Moong. Southeast Asia is familiar with Moong. So the education was not required. And
Right.
that's how this was my next product. And we have another 2-3 products in pipeline for which
Oh,
we've
lovely.
applied the patent. Yeah, once the patent pending stage comes in, we'll be launching the products also. We're
Hmm.
expecting that to happen month and a half. And
Hmm.
those are also your regular consumption products, just made, from a much cleaner source with more clean label concept compared to which the
Right.
alternative which are there in the market.
Hmm.
I've consciously kept the pricing at par with what's there in the market, but just a little
Hmm.
premium because to understand that the process
Right.
is a different more tedious. But yeah, so I didn't want to only get stuck to protein powder, and I wanted to branch out in various other things, keeping Moong as the main focus.
Okay. So yeah, so this is very interesting. So Shilpa, but since you've said that you've applied for a patent, so as it's a very familiar product, of course, and you have your own innovation. But for founders who are listening to this in the tech space, of course, you're doing some engineering and you work towards a patent in that. How do you apply? What goes in applying for a patent for a food product?
So, your product and the process both need to be unique, is what
Right.
I've understood when you apply for a patent.
Mhm.
The patent application was actually accidental. Development was completely accidental. We've been actually working on this product since December last year.
Mhm.
We must have taken at least 70 to 80 trials and we did not succeed, but the trial we succeeded in was actually done in a week, right? So it's got nothing to do with, it doesn't say that, things happen overnight, right? It was something that we were working on and eliminating and working on, then taking a break and trying something else, thinking it's not possible, to
Right.
revisiting it. And it was a very, very a proper research done to figure out that this was patentable. When we were developing it, I did not see any scope for developing anything that was patentable, to be very frank. I thought in food, everything is already exhausted. Whatever you could develop unique is already being done. And I obviously traveled to US and exhibited in June and to get a first-hand experience of how the West is familiar, whether the West is familiar with moong beans. And it was a very positive feedback experience, I must say. Obviously, I have a
Right.
lot of learnings to do, and I might require one or two more expos to, establish myself as a player where investors or look promising. And while I took one of my product there, it's actually, it's while exhibiting there, I realized that, you know, it was actually a product that nobody had ever worked on. And maybe if I tweaked a little, which that time seemed more theoretical, but when we came back and we worked over it, it actually worked out. And that's when we realized that if we patent it, and I'm only a year and a half old company, right? So
Right.
my my sales are still, like my sales are obviously the sales of a bootstrap company, a little more promising because it's growing by around 15% month on month. But I realized that the patent is something that's going to make me bankable, right? If I have the
Mm.
research to go with it, which I do, if I have the future sales guaranteed because the product and the patent belongs to me, is when I realized that, so yeah, so that's how I think for anybody who wants to develop something or is, see, I think the startup culture is now trying to fade, right? With
Mm.
everybody, it was very easy earlier to get funding, right? But now, people have changed the basis of funding. They've moved from economic, from revenue to now profitability, right? So they clearly want to know that maybe you have the top line to show, but how much money are you actually making? And in that, if you have something to show them that this is something that, because the first question anybody asks you while giving you funding is that what will stop a big brand from copying it, right?
Mm.
And that is where I tell them that this document stops them from copying it.
Mm.
And I have seen that in my research for patenting. Obviously, I have seen a couple of brands, and I have thought about it as to, why has nobody done it, and it shows why have nobody done it because that brand has a patent for it.
Mm.
Right? So that's how. Yeah. So I just think that it requires for you to make sure that either the process is unique or the product is unique. And I think India doesn't have utility patent, but it does have process patenting. So if you have taken control of that, then you at least know that nobody's going to be able to copy it and create a brand out of it. Obviously, India and China has loopholes like where, you know, white labeling is possible, right? So because you can copy it because the downfall of a patent is an entire procedure is right there for anybody to copy, right? Because you have to declare everything as to how you achieve.
Right.
But
Right.
at least nobody can create a brand out of it itself because that comes in the mainstream and you can sue them. So I
Mm.
think in food that is very easy to do compared to in tech or hardware because it's made in China and you're just importing out here. So it's
Right.
difficult to see someone there. But yeah, in food, I think it is very easy for you to keep your hard work with yourself because everything
Mm.
otherwise comes to the mainstream and you know who's done it. Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah, I think that's solid advice, and you're right. Like people can, if you have a patent out, then of course everything is out in the public. But the big brands cannot copy you. Of course, someone in a small town might be able to replicate it and cheat their way through. But yeah, but that it answers the question that okay, why will a big brand not?
Exactly. Yeah, because then they're only local, right? A small brand
Right,
in a small town can, but once they think of crossing the border, then
correct,
in the open for suing. So yeah,
correct,
which is
correct.
why. So this was also a learning that I had, and speaking to
Mhm.
people because I was worried too. If I put the process out, but it actually rather safeguards my interest more than making me vulnerable. So yeah.
Correct. And if we talk about the acceptance of the product, right, in amongst the people, what do you think? So, although it's of course you said that Moong is very familiar and everyone recognizes Moong as a household product. Do you think that also creates a little problem for the consumer to think of moong as a premium? Like oats has always been like something like, you have your oatmeal cookies, and then it's just, it's, if you do a premium oats brand, it's easier for a consumer to recognize, okay, these are premium oats. But if you do a premium moong brand, have you ever faced friction in terms of consumers thinking that that moong can also be premium?
So when I launched so I didn't face that problem in the protein,
Mm-hmm.
because protein consumers understand that it is not just moong that has been grinded into a powder. They do understand that the extraction process has happened. But when I launched my flakes,
Right.
and there's one of my content where it went viral, with where I explained to people that how it's how I took an excerpt from Masala Labs one content where he mentioned that how Krisha show, that he mentioned how Indian breakfasts are all high in carbs. And I was
Correct.
like, how about we change that? And I showed how you can make poha out of it. Then this one bowl gives you around 15 grams of protein and
Right.
very less. It's not carb heavy, it's protein heavy. And
Right.
I had a lot of comments on it where there was not a single question about that. It is moong is one of the most expensive dals actually to buy in the market, right? It is
Hmm.
priced above 100 rupees a kilo, right? So that automatically shows 120 actually, and automatically shows that my raw material is expensive.
Hmm.
Compared to oats is actually 30 rupees a kilo. So
Right.
moong is already premium. And if I'm using that to make where I am not, there is no scope of me adding anything, because I literally have to use the dal and flake each dal. So if you're paying 100 rupees a kilo for the dal, it's literally that is only my raw material cost for this. I cannot have any adulteration possible in that, because it's in dry form and it's whole form, not even a powder.
Right.
Automatically, my product is actually expensive compared to oat flakes, because oat flakes are three kinds, right? You have the quick oats, you have rolled oats, and you have steel cut oats. And
Right.
steel cut oats is supposed to be the least processed and more high in, in their natural, in nutritional, whatever they have.
Right.
Our more flakes even surpass steel cut oats when it comes to their nutritional. So they are,
Nutrition.
yeah, they are that good. So I don't tell you to compare it to quick oats, because that's like the cheapest
Hmm.
form. I tell you that if you're ready to pay that kind of money for steel cut oats, I'm expecting you to pay the same for this. And it is like the least, processed, right? Because I cannot have various forms in this. So I've actually had people coming and asking me that it's a great product, but you've priced it very high. In spite of that, they've purchased it, because
Hmm.
they had understood that definitely this is not for everyone. I've had a lot of comments about this is only for the top 1% of the population. They can
Hmm.
only pay this kind of pricing because this is almost 4-5x of what poha is. And I understand, fair point. But you should also understand what is the price of rice. Rice is
Hmm.
20, you can have the Sona Masuri rice in retail for 29 rupees. So just
Right.
imagine for a manufacturer, it's practically only for 18 to 19 rupees.
Hmm.
Compared to for
Correct.
me, the dal is going to cost me 100 bucks, right?
Hmm.
Because it's 120 in retail. The maximum I
Right.
can get it down is to 105 or 7, right?
Right.
So that is the concept that I don't explain, because I let the product do the talking, right? So
Hmm.
I've till now not had a question about, whether people don't think it worth it. It's not premium. I think a consumer, and it is rightfully said by these people that it is probably only for the one top percent. But let's face it, all protein is for the top 1%, right? Because the people below that are already fighting for daily food, right? So
Hmm.
protein is the last thing on their mind. So it is not an intentional thing that I have done, but it is just something that I cannot reduce the cost after a certain, I have processing to take care of. I have, everything else to take care of, because it is not just taking it. We have to sprout it, then we have to wait. Then the next day there's one process, then there's one process, because you have to integrate. Plus you have to dry it out, So it's not something that's made in a day. So
Hmm.
I've not had that kind of issue till now about people not expecting or understanding that it is. that it is not premium to
Mm, right. Yeah, but and you're right. Like it's unfortunate that that we are in a country where there is so much there is not enough income that everyone can have all their
Yeah.
nutritions from food.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Or but yeah, it is what it is, and as a brand you can
Yeah,
only
I mean,
do so much.
I would love for, because, more people being able to afford it increases my database of the consumer as well, right?
Right,
But unfortunately, we have such a wide gap that, I mean, you can't really do anything about.
right. And you said that you recently visited an expo, and you're also looking at international expansion. And I'm guessing also moving beyond India or our Southeast Asian countries. So what goes behind the scenes for selling a product built in India outside India?
Okay, so I'll give you a very unfiltered, understanding or experience that I had when I went for the expo. So when I went for the expo, there were various podiums created as per countries, right?
Right.
So Canada, Turkey, name it, all the countries, Korea, Italy, France, all of them were there. And we were at the Indian podium was almost at the end of the of the hall, and we
Hmm.
were right ahead of Italy. And people would come and they would stop at Italy and take a turn back.
Hmm.
Nobody was entering the Indian podium except Indian buyers, right?
Hmm.
Because the concept is that India is only known for four things. It's grains, that includes pulses, rice, and everything. It's spices. It is the Indian snacks, and it is, oil, tea, and not oil, but tea,
Right.
right? So there is no innovation that has happened in India, right? Or the Indian food is very ethnic. Even Turkey food is ethnic, or
Hmm.
African food is ethnic, but it has got acceptance in the US, right?
Hmm.
But Indian food is very, very Indian. And that's where it was actually disappointing. And I'm not joking. I didn't have the disappointment that people are not coming to my booth. I had anger that they're treating India like this.
Hmm.
That they would not even want to look at your booth because they're like, this is India. Like, what do they
Hmm.
have to offer for the Western countries? Okay. And so obviously, since not a lot of people were coming to to our booth, we were taking our products into the other podiums on,
Right.
like taking it in
Trade.
a tray and getting people to try it and stuff, and letting them know that India is not only this, okay, it is also this. We do some kind of different products. And so, yeah, that was my experience out there,
Hmm.
to go all out. And I think this is where actually, the Indian government also has to see, right? Because why did we agree to have our podium in the end? Why did we not get it in the middle? And this
Hmm.
is the story apparently every year, right?
Right.
So I don't know whether you'll be putting it up in the recording or not, or whether I'll go through problems or not. But this is bureaucracy.
Hmm.
You know, that this is where you know that everybody's paying the same amount, but your country is not making sure that you get the same kind of, the same kind of, platform compared to other countries.
Hmm.
Which is why next year, I was actually thinking that I have family out there, and I told them, why don't you register a company? And that's how
Hmm.
I get to participate through the US side,
Right.
right in the middle of the US podium.
Hmm.
Right. So this is where I realized that, and obviously when I took it to the Western people, I was surprised that time that they were already aware of mung beans. And I owe it a lot to this brand in US called Just Egg. Okay,
Hmm.
so there's a brand in US called Just Egg. They've been there since 2015.
Okay.
They hold 99% of the market share for vegan eggs.
Oh,
Yeah. They're valued at around 1.2 billion.
wow. And they
And
do Just Egg. Oh, yes, 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 yes. Right.
and the vegan egg is made from mung bean protein.
Hmm.
So they are the ones who actually took on the burden of educating the Western consumer about
Right.
mung bean. which
Hmm.
benefited me because when I launched on Amazon.com, I
Hmm.
already had good sales in the first month, which I was trying to figure out that was it the ethnic people who purchased, but that wasn't the case because you get the names of the people who are purchasing, so you know some are Caucasian, some are Indian.
Right.
That's how I kind of look connected it back to that it was Just Egg which took on, and
Right.
so they have the patent for that. They have
Hmm.
the patent for creating. So I am obviously not looking at doing that because I don't think in
Correct.
India that makes any sense. But
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the rest of the other things. So that's
Hmm.
where, that's how. So that's how the Western countries are getting educated about blue beans. Southeast Asia is already very well aware of it, right? I mean,
Right.
Singaporeans, we get a lot of orders from Singapore, Philippines, Indonesia on our website because they
Hmm.
have grown up having mung beans in some or the other form, right? Southeast Asia.
Hmm.
I mean, India got mung from China. It was never grown in India first. It was grown in China, and then China.
Okay, I did not know that. Is that
Yeah,
so? It's not an inherent Indian product.
it was. I mean, I don't know what is Indian product. To be very frank, I mean, there are a lot of things to say that even
Right.
turmeric is not Indian, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Right.
that's actually the thing. But now, obviously, India is 70% holder of the largest, it's like 70% market share for moon production. So
Right.
yeah, the tides have changed, and it's highly possible, 100% possible that Just Egg is also sourcing their mung beans from India to make their vegan egg.
Yes.
Yeah, but so that's how I mean, it just turned out that there's only another brand which is doing it, and they've been doing it for 10 years. And yeah, I also happen to pick up the same ingredient, but in
Right.
different forms. I never wanted to make an egg out of it. I was very focused on the other things that I thought Indians would like and something that can be accepted internationally as well.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, I think that makes sense. And Shilpa, when you're getting a lot of orders, like for example, you said from Singapore and Indonesia. What goes into shipping those orders? Like, is it hard to ship outside? Like when you get an order from say Singapore, then what happens from that point you get an order to the point the order is delivered to your consumer?
So I do it through ShipRocket only actually.
Hmm.
I mean, I use that international arm. These are retail orders that I'm currently doing on.
Hmm.
The reason being that I started this because I wanted to understand that which country would be good for me to officially launch in.
Launch, right?
And obviously, I mean, I'm glad it's only been a year and a half, which has given me that insight. And I wanted to start actually the brand as more of an export focus than domestic focus. Because
Mm-hmm.
in India, if you want to grow a D2C brand, it's very difficult. It
Hmm.
is not easy to grow. You need external funding. You need to give away a good amount of equity in the start. And that is not something that I really wanted to part with. So I wanted to see the proof of concept, in different countries. And, once I have that is because I think US is a very forgiving market, very forgiving. And out there, it's not 1% of the consumers, right? It's everybody
Right.
is a consumer.
Hmm.
So, which is why if your product works, then I don't think they really care about whether it's from India or, to be very frank, I'm very honest. If it is something
Right.
that is talking to them in their language and not in an
Hmm.
ethnic language, they are more than happy to give it a shot. So
Hmm.
that's how.
Fair. Makes sense. Makes sense. Great, Shilpa. We have one last round, which is like a fun rapid fire round. So I'll ask you a question, and you can say whatever the first thing comes in your mind. Just one or two words in your answers. So let's quickly start. Give me one word for moong. What comes in your head when someone says moong? Sorry,
Sustainable.
sustainable. Amazing. Whey protein or plant protein?
Moon protein.
That's what I was expecting. Give me one overrated D2C advice which goes on social media, which is overrated.
That you should secure funding as early as possible. If you are
Hmm.
looking at growth, I
Hmm.
think you shouldn't. I think that tides have changed. If you know that you are doing a very unique product, then don't give up your equity very quick.
Hmm. Give me an underrated D2C advice.
For growth on Meta, don't scale your budget, scale your ads. And that is absolutely right. Also, obviously, the creative matters. So if you've understood the pulse of your TG and you've understood what really works for them, you've done your, work, and then just scale in the same direction which you understand, but scale. More ads are the only way to get a better OS on Lead2C and Meta. There's no other way. Definitely changing your targeting, increasing your budget is not the way. So it's extremely underrated. You should go for that.
And give me a founder mistake you will never repeat again.
I won't hire left, right, and center ever again. I have understood that it is not the strength of the team, it is the kind of people in the team. So start lean, always start lean. Don't go all out if you have a little bit of money also, because in the start you think that it's just, a couple of lakhs a month, but you do end up hiring 2-3 people probably for the same job, because your expenses have not, multifolded over time. But you never realize when you're going to get under that entire pile. And then the worst is to keep firing people because you were not being a good hire. So,
And if a global brand launches Moong protein tomorrow, will you be happy or scared?
I'll be very happy. There was a time I used to be very worried about competition, but I think competition is very required, because then the burden of education is not on one shoulder. Everybody's educating. So you reap the benefits.
Amazing, Shilpa. Thank you so much for doing this. I think this has been amazing for sharing the story behind Moong and helping us know how to expand globally. I think there's a lot of insight in this podcast for others who are looking at at a new category, trying to build something, trying to expand out of India. And yes, to everyone watching this, if this made you look at Moong differently, please send it to another founder or a wellness nerd or one person who still thinks that protein only means whey. And once again, thank you so much for joining China, Shilpa. And for everyone, I was Rachit Magan. This was China, the Agent Commerce podcast. See you in the next episode.
Thank you so much, Rachit, for inviting me over and helping me share my thoughts. I'm obviously very young. We are a very young company, and I am still to grow up, but I'm glad that I'll be very happy if any of the, information or advice that I've shared just turning out to be meaningful and helps anyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And wishing you and its Moong the very best. We'll, of course, keep following your story on all socials. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a good day to you as well.